I'm so glad I get to give a Dharma talk. I thought, where's the Dharma talk? Not because it's because people have been coming in this morning in Dokusan. You know, there's suffering in the world. The Buddha lived in difficult times of war, times of tribal conflict. These teachings didn't come out of a world that was full of peace and harmony. They arose because the Buddha cared. He noticed, just like all of us. So as the story goes, or as I understand it, is, you know, Buddha's awakening. It's so beautiful. He found a nectar-like Dharma, profound, peaceful, free from reference points, luminous and unconditioned. And then he thought, people are never going to understand this. And so he thought about it and he walked around and he said, I can't do this. This is, and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Indra said, Buddha, you said you'd help. This is clearly my interpretation of the story, but I think it's good enough. And he realized, of course, which is when he came up with the Four Noble Truths. Really simple. There's suffering. There's a cause of suffering. There's release or freedom from suffering, and there's a path of living it. And in our tradition, we call that the Bodhisattva path. That's our job. What's the appropriate response? How do we take care of our own hearts and the one heart of the world? And what is it that there is no separation between self and other? Well, how do we live that? So this weekend in the Dharma talk yesterday and in the Dharma talk today, my intention is to point towards the deepest truth. We have the relative truth with the Lojong teachings, which we've been doing. But they're rooted in the absolute truth, because if we don't have and know a deeper ground, we're just all going to get swallowed up in suffering. And then how can you help yourself or anybody else? So we are extraordinarily fortunate that we have found this practice, that we have Sangha, that we have ancient teachings, that we have a path, and that for whatever reason, you all have sort of delighting watching everybody over here on Zoom too, as well as in the room. We've given ourselves the time to sit down for 2 days, really sit down. Zazen. Zazen isn't just this thing we do. I started with transcendental meditation in college. There wasn't much else back then, and I have a memory of my friends making fun of me because, well, one, nobody else was doing it, but two, it was the way I did it. You know, it was like, get out of my way, I'm gonna go do this thing, and then I'd sit down and I'd do it, and then I'd stand up and I'd go do whatever was next. I'm so glad to have stayed long enough to know that that was a really beautiful impulse, and that matures and deepens. And in fact, it is said, and I do believe it, that bodhicitta, which is the arising of care and compassion, which is the awareness of suffering, and then the understanding, going beyond, sitting in the middle of personal suffering and transforming it, as the Lojong teachings say, transforming bad circumstances into the path that that care softens and tenderizes our hearts for the whole world. There's no separation. But it is said that the first impulse or glimmer, even a vague sense of deep caring, including that little me that was like, I'm going to do this. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do it the way I've done everything else, and I'm going to do it and get out of my way. And however it arose in you, and of course before that, it's like as a child, you see suffering, you know there's suffering. You don't want your mother and father to suffer. It's just. But that first impulse, connection, yearning to come home to what feels true, it's said to be essentially the same mind as a fully awake and enlightened heart mind of a fully realized bodhisattva. So what you got, it's already it. And I think the beautiful thing about it is, in many ways, is, you know, it's like once your heart starts to open and break. Trungpa said bodhicitta was the genuine heart of sadness. Once you notice, you can't really go back. I mean, you may think you can. You can sort of get distracted for a lifetime or several lifetimes, but in the end, it's once you know, you can't unknow. So our work is to sustain this opening, this tenderizing, this deep concern for self or others. And an awareness that, even if it's a faith awareness or a prayer awareness, that as we wake up, the whole world wakes up. This is radical interconnection. And that the noble heart of bodhicitta and of a bodhisattva is always available, always available. In joy or in pain, because it's our true nature. We're just waking up to what already is. So we keep coming back. That's all. We just keep coming back. And opening and actualizing and nurturing our capacity to rejoice and to let go and to love and to be tenderized by life and to find appropriate response. So from Suzuki Roshi, another Suzuki Roshi. The Buddhist way is, in one word, compassion. This means to encourage people when they are feeling positive and also to help them get rid of their suffering. Nothing very esoteric about that, huh? Nothing very zen-y. Just encourage people when they're feeling positive and to help them with their suffering. He says this is true love. This is Bodhisattva path. And it's not just to give something or to receive something or to observe the precepts that we practice our way. The precepts are not like, these are not rules put on top of something to turn into being good little bodhisattvas, not to get merit badges. We practice our way with things as they naturally occur, going with people, suffering with them, helping to relieve their suffering, and encouraging them to go on and on. We practice our way with things as they naturally occur, meeting each moment, going with people, suffering with them, helping to relieve their suffering, and encouraging them to go on and on. And that, of course, includes this. It's very ordinary. Which is I like to call being a true human being. Which is, I think, what the Buddha was enacting when he just something in him said, just sit down on the earth. And the earth said, oh, hi, Buddha. Finally, a human being just sat down and touched the earth and said, here I am. That's what the Buddha said. You can't, well, maybe you can hear it every time you sit down. You could maybe listen at the beginning of each period of zazen, whether the earth is saying, oh, hi, welcome back. So glad you're here. And it's a very firm, strong thing. Here I am, here I am. And it's also very vulnerable. Why we all skip across the top of the earth, get distracted in 100 million different ways, because when you sit down on the earth, you might hear something. And you might touch your own heart and the one heart of the world. And you might not know what to do, and it might break your heart. And you also might be touched by the beauty of an autumn day in a way that you couldn't believe was possible. I'll remind you Suzuki Roshi's swinging gate. When we become truly ourselves, we just become a swinging gate. And we are purely independent of and at the same time dependent upon everything. Nope, sorry, I like to be in control. Just me. You people out there, you're all nice, but I mean, I really do have that part of me. You probably do too. People hurt you. People are confused. Not me, of course, you. You don't know what's going to happen next. In faith that we are Buddha, we enter Buddha's way. We need the ground of something bigger. We are completely independent of and at the same time dependent upon everything. And without air, we cannot breathe. Each one of us is in the midst of myriads of worlds. We are in the center of the world always, moment after moment. This person includes the whole world, nothing excluded. We are literally sitting in this amazing, beautiful autumn day with the birds who have come in close, and we're also sitting with Israel and Palestine and Syria and whatever is being cooked up in this country. The whole world. We sit down in the middle of it. But what, and I've said this before because I didn't like it. I mean, bodhisattvas just want to help, right? They just want to help. But what a bodhisattva fundamentally knows is emptiness, is that there's nobody to help. And there's nothing to be done because it already is. We're not trying to be a Buddha, we already are it. And without that deep, groundless ground, we're just going to keep trying to help and miss what's actually in front of us, and not grandmotherly mind of imagination. What is it? Child's mind of don't know. Beginner's mind. That's what's so wonderful about this time. Don't know. Listen. Trust. Blind trust. Entrust yourself to the whole world. So Dogen, bringing forward Dogen a lot, because Dogen sometimes is completely inexplicable, which is on purpose. I'm going to read you some things that just, it's like there's somersaults. It's like, whoop, and I had it, whoop. It's like no place to rest. But there's something in it It just says, my heart says, yes. There's some truth, the taste of the Tathagata's words, of the taste of truth. So the world is linear. There is cause and effect. My understanding is that in the beginning of Dogen's teachings, he denied cause and effect. He was more an emptiness dude. And I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine he probably got into trouble, because the minute you think there's no cause and effect, you sort of notice that people start doing things in the world without noticing that their actions of body, speech, and mind have an impact. So he, by the end of his life, was firmly rooted in there is cause and effect. This happens, then that happens. This doesn't happen, then that doesn't happen. And everything is round and mysterious. And he called it the circle of the way. Kaz Tanahashi, the scholar and the translator, says that Dogen only mentions the language, the circle of the way, 4 times in all of his teachings. And that this represents the heart of his teachings. And the circle of the way, you might have noticed that the Dharma heart symbol is the insect. That's the circle of the way. It's alive and it's messy and it's got lots of colors and little things coming off the sides of it. And Kaz does it by he takes a big broom and dips it in big paint buckets, and then full body makes these ensos. So practice in the world of causes and conditions. Linear time and space. Takes great effort. It takes patience. It takes energy. It takes forbearance. It takes all of the wonderful 59 slogans and everything beyond. There's failure and success. And as we practice sitting in the midst of this very world just as it is, and our beautiful, crazy hearts and minds, being human, we do develop more capacity to stay and more stability, earth touch, more tenderness, and more come to understand the indelible power of our actions. Our actions of body, speech, and mind matter. The circle of the way is a translation of a Japanese word dokkan, literally meaning the way ring. It's round and it's moving. Under the practice of each one of us, however humble and immature, is something powerful and indispensable. And it's the journey of just this person. Upright and present. And a kind of faith practice, although I think we do taste it in Zazen. That it includes and touches all of time and space. It's circular, it's round, it's ineffable, it's ungraspable. It echoes and ripples, and there's no gap. And it's complete even from the beginning. There is something in the very act of when you sit down for Zazen. I mean, one already, what in the world are you doing? What do you think you're doing? And there is something, the more you sit, where these words have some resonance. You can taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. The practice and realization aren't inseparable. It's right here. It's just this. Where do you think you're going? And it's renewed moment after moment. Lojong teachings, resolve to begin, resolve to begin, resolve to begin, resolve to begin. And at the moment you begin taking a step, you've already arrived. Because it's already this. And we keep arriving each moment, moment after moment. So you think the world is crazy out there? You think all those people are crazy out there? Well, I think so too. No. But here, let me where is it here? Fukan Zengi of Eihei Dogen. Dogen has, you know, Shobogenzo, lots of fascicles. This is what he wrote about Zazen for part of it. Cease from practice based on intellectual understanding, pursuing words and following after speech, and just learn the backward step that turns your light inwardly to illuminate yourself. Just come back. Just come back. And then please study. I mean, study's great. I love studying. You know? But it's physical, it's embodied. Body and mind of themselves will drop away and your original face will manifest. Who you truly are, truth of everything. It's right here. You can taste it. Intelligence or lack of it does not matter. Between the dull and the sharp-witted, there is no distinction. You do not have to be smart to get this. If you're smart, good for you, but that's not what we're talking about here. If you concentrate your efforts single-mindedly, that in itself is negotiating away. Right. In, out. Stand up, sit down. Practice realization is naturally undefiled. Going forward in practice is a matter of everydayness. It's just wholehearted everydayness. That's all. Dogen says, another fascicle called continuous practice. Between aspiration, practice, enlightenment, realization, and nirvana or freedom, there is not a moment's gap. Continuous practice is the circle of the way. This being so, continuous practice is unstained, not forced by you or others. The power of this continuous practice confirms you as well as others. It means your practice affects the entire earth and the entire sky in the 10 directions. And although not noticed by others or by yourself, it is so. Sometimes when I get discouraged, might happen to you too. Like, oh, you same old thought, same old, like this deep faith practice. Because I believe this. I don't believe it because I believe it like something put on top of something. It's because something in my bones and my body and my cells knows this is true. So then resolve to begin. Resolve to begin. That's all. Forever. Wherever you think you're going, it's not good. I mean, we had lots of ideas about where we hoped we were going in the election, and whoa. Profound teaching, difficult teaching. Where are we now? Don't know. Resolve to begin. I'll paraphrase this a little. There's a couple things I want to tell you. All right. It's another Shobogenzo Dogen from Busho. So Nagarjuna was one of the early elders, ancestors, deeply revered. We could study him sometime. He's hard to study. That's why we haven't studied him. But I do revere him. And maybe someday we'll study him. His teachings are really emptiness based. In case you hadn't noticed, I lean more towards the practical. But we need to know. So Dogen walks into this monastery and he found a painting of a one circle on the wall, the Enso. And he asked, what did the circle mean? And the guiding monk said that it was a painting of Nagarjuna manifesting the form of a round moon, a full moon, which is a symbol of enlightenment, a symbol of awakening, of fullness, of wholeness. That when Nagarjuna sat in Zazen, his physical form disappeared and people only saw the form of a round moon. Kind of cool, huh? Dogen did not like that. It was kind of like, get your feet on the ground. It's like, just put a picture of Nagarjuna sitting Zazen. Don't get all petty or special about this. He criticized the painting on the walkway and said that if they wanted to paint Nagarjuna's form of a round moon, they should just paint him sitting as we usually do. That's all. Body, here, present. This is it. What we're doing here today, this is it. Suzuki Roshi says we touch it with our bodies. Isn't this cool? I love this. I love this, that you can go from just no form disappearing, everything's empty, to just sit, just take care of your life. This is it. Pay attention. We believe our skin is us because it draws a line around our existence and we experience the world as ourselves, right? I mean, we do. And then we think we're a constant self. The truth is that we are alive in relation to others and to everything, and not in relationship to some imagined inner self. What are you thinking here? How's it going? Here. Our bodies are membranes in the world with sensation and meaning passing seamlessly through them. And all just because we are chanting the Heart Sutra a fair amount this weekend, in case you hadn't noticed. No eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no sight, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind. It's not what you think it is. And there's great Zen stories about, I can't remember which of the ancestors who said, what do you mean, no eyes, no ears, no, there's an eye and a nose, and it's like it's a swinging gate. But it's swinging and it's moving and it's alive, and that's what we taste in Zazen. The concepts we take for granted as the foundation of the way we view, are the concepts we take for granted are the foundation of the way we view the world. I mean, of course we do. How else are you going to name this? It's an eye. But also know there's no eye. Because the minute you name it, you already lost the world. It's always a paradox. It's always self-contradictory. So we enter. We study how this sets us up for suffering, separateness. We practice turning and being turned. We study the Lojong teachings. Great normalizations of this is what human beings do. This is what we've been doing. Pay attention. You are not a crazy human. Well, you are a crazy human being, but you're not different than any other crazy human being. Let's just all wake up together. Let's help each other. And more our hearts get tenderized. So it's a vast circle, round and infinite. And it comes through each one of us and our lives. And that's the Bodhisattva path. So how can I be of help? Because I know you're not separate. I know we're all in this together. I don't know. You don't know. Then peacemakers say the three tenets, not knowing, keep dropping your ideas about what you think this is about. Bear witness to the suffering and the joy of the world. And then let action arise from there. I mean, I always, there's this thing called engaged Buddhism. And part of me thinks, I don't, how could Buddhism not be engaged? So, how could you be alive and not be engaged in life? I mean, and some people mean that in a more, I don't want to say political way, but I just. Suzuki Roshi says to shine one corner of the world. That's engaged Buddhism. And whether you think your corner is this big and that's what your capacity and what your life allows, or if you know your corner is the entire world, they're both true. Respond. So here's something I found. I haven't seen. I found something new. I'm going to share it with you. This is about Yunman, who is one of the ancient Zen masters in our lineage, and he's in the koan that's going to be part of our ceremony this afternoon. So I thought, well, this is cool. He just showed up. So I'm going to tell you the story, and I would urge you, as always with Zen stories, to soften your mind. Yunman, great master Daoyun of Yongshan, was a 39th generation descendant of the Tathagata, the world honored one. He inherited Dharma from Yongfeng, great master Zhengzhao. Although he was a latecomer in the Buddha's assembly, he was a hero on the ancestral seat. It's kind of cool, isn't it? Hero, heroine. We're all just kind of heroes on our Buddha seats. Who can say that a radiant light Buddha has not appeared on Mount Yunnan? Who can say a radiant light Buddha has not appeared at open sky and each one of your seats and in your homes, exactly where you are? Once he ascended the teaching seat and he said to the assembly, each and every person embodies the radiant light. Each and every person embodies the radiant light. If you try to see it, it is totally invisible. Then what is each and every person's radiant light? Not surprisingly, no one in the assembly answered. I have no doubt that they were deeply moved and penetrated by the question, and he answered for them. You want to know what he said? He said the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, the monastery gate. He just named things. Yunman did not say that each and every person's radiant light will appear later, has appeared in the past, or is appearing nearby. Clearly hear the words. Each and every person embodies the radiant light. The Buddha hall is the radiant light. This room is the radiant light. The trees outside are the radiant light. Each one of you is the radiant light. You were the radiant light before you were born. You will be the radiant light as you die. We will each be the radiant light when we do the Hoshinshiki ceremony this afternoon, exchanging radiant light to radiant light, warm heart to warm heart. That's all. I'm just going to give you some of this language to soften your brain. Each and every person embodies the radiant light. Assemble 101,000 Yunmans and make them investigate together and speak in one voice. Each and every person embodies the radiant light is not his personal statement. Everyone's light takes itself up and makes this statement. He asks the question for everyone. It's everyone's question. What is it? What is this radiant light? What is this human being? What is each thing? What is this all about? Each and every person embodies the radiant light means all humanity embodies the radiant light. This is what we keep coming back to. Take the backward step. This is when you're feeling hopeless and despairing and whatever. This is simultaneously the truth. All of humanity is the radiant light. Radiant light means each and every person. Each and every person takes up the radiant light and sees its body, mind, and environments. There is a person where each and every radiant light embodies a person. There is a person where radiant light is the self. There is a person where each and every person embodies a person. There is radiant light where each and every radiant light embodies radiant light. And there is embodiment where each and every embodiment embodies. There is each and everywhere, each and every self embodies each and every. Thus know that the radiant light is each and every person embodied. Every person, everything. Let me ask you, Yunnan, what do you call each and every person? What do you call radiant light? It's a question you could carry around with you forever. Call each and every person. What do you call radiant light? What is it? See, in Zen, the answers don't matter so much. It's the question. Keep staying with the question. And Yunnan said, each and every person who responds to this question is a person of radiant light. Just even staying with the question, light you up, it's your Buddha nature. And I suppose if you asked, how do you get to In-N-Out Burger? But if you asked it with radiant light, that's radiant light too, you know? It's just like, you kind of can't lose. And what is this radiant light and how do we embody it? It's the monk's hall, it's the Buddha hall, it's the kitchen, it's the monastery gate. It's vow, it's practice, it's showing up. So we just keep making effort. But an easeful effort. We're persistent, but we don't worry about things. How's it going? Just notice worry as worry and come back. Caring is different than worrying. What matters is that we just keep trying. It's resolved to the end. Resolved to the end. trusting what happens is exactly what happens, and it couldn't have happened otherwise, and then we see where we are next. The deepening stamina and stability to be present for ourselves, for the people that we love, those that we don't love, for the world that we care about, that we worry about. Suzuki Roshi, just reference back to yesterday, is Avalokiteshvara is 1,000 hands and eyes around. It's round. These bodies are round and alive. Everything is. I just think this is there's an edge here. But it's all radiant light. Wow. And it's just this person. But Suzuki Roshi says if you're just focused on the two hands, it's like me, what am I going to do over here? Sort of the way in my early bodhisattva nature was, I was just going to knock everybody over so that I could go do my transcendental meditation and then get up and do the rest of my life, which I still do in different ways, but it's a little more round. Like a 16-foot tall radiant Buddha. It's just light, energy, alive, along with everything else. And that's how we're going to save the world. Beings are numberless, I vow to save them and be saved by them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end and be ended by them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter and be entered by them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to become it. It just means his swinging gate. Show up alive, good feet on the ground. Keep coming back. Don't miss this amazing autumn day. And don't miss what feels like suffering. You're sitting on the cushion and you're bargaining with this or that, or thinking that if you could just be somebody else, or surely there must be somebody across the room who's doing this better than you are. Or whatever you think. It's just breath. Who sat down on the earth? He sat down on the earth for just this reason, because there's suffering. He cared. We care. And we'll just keep helping each other. And profound, peaceful, free from reference points, luminous and unconditioned. Just this. We can't lose. Okay, thanks for letting me see a cheerleader. May our intention fully penetrate every being and place with the true merit of way. Beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to get them. Start out this. I vow to enter them. Buddha's ways is possible. I vow to become. So we can all stand up and do some more bows.